So you mentioned there that it originally, and we've spoken about this before, that it started life as a play. What was it about the play that you thought this should be adapted into a film?
I was really inspired by Narelle's work. She writes these very real, everyday, very relatable people. And when we worked on the play, this is the original team actually, we had a really great experience and an amazing rehearsal process, and I could just see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going with it, and so I talked with Narelle a lot, and then she went through a 6-month development process to develop the script for the film.
And Narelle, there you mentioned that you changed the 50-50 balance between Bridget and Iain on the play, to focus more on Bridget. What was the reasoning behind that?
I was aware that for a film it's more cohesive if you have a protagonist, a single protagonist, so that was a shift in the medium. And I was interested in an older woman character, and I think there's a tendency, you know, because Iain's an addict, a lot of films focus on that character, you know, a younger character, a character who it could easily have been about him. And I was more interested in how addiction affects other people, the people that are in relationship with that person. So I thought it gave a different perspective.
And when you, because I imagine you wrote the play as well then.
Yes.
Is it difficult approaching, you know, you've performed this play before, you've seen it performed, then you have to make changes and, you know, it must be like, I don't know, like, don't harm my baby almost, you know, is it?
It's interesting, that's a great question, because I struggled at first to see it as a film, because to me it was so much a play, and it had these monologues and it jumped around, and so for a film I had to give it a clearer sort of plot in a sense that wasn't there, and choose the protagonist. But I was quite, so I took things like, she says he was a beautiful baby, and I went, I'll have the image of him as a baby. Or there were, in the play she talks about these beads, and then we gave her the beads. So I started to think of it visually, but I was quite rigorous. In fact, I remember at an early read-through, I was like, I'm cutting all this dialogue, and Leah would say, oh, do you have to? And I'm like, yes. You know, so I was quite, I knew that a lot of the dialogue had to go, and it had to become a more visual story, and then whole new scenes are in the film that aren't even in the play. The counsellor scene was completely written for the film.
And guys, you know, you've played these characters on stage. How different was it for you being than doing it as a film? Was it a shock when you first found out that it was going to be made into a movie? Or?
Oh, it was wonderful, because all through the rehearsal period for the play, I don't think it was Leah's vision to have it as a film, but it was such a wonderful experience. I know I can speak for Damien as well, and he'll speak for himself in a moment. But it was such a wonderful experience that when we found out that, you know, the film had been green-lighted and it was going ahead, it was very, very exciting, because we didn't want this first chapter to end. We wanted it to go on, and as it has done. So yeah, it was a joy, an absolute joy.
Damien?
Absolutely what Viv was saying, but it's also, I think also it was a great opportunity to explore the characters more, because we felt there was a lot to the story that we wanted to really get into, and we made discovery ourselves about it as well. But also when we did the play, we noticed that it encouraged a lot of conversation with audience members who would approach us after the various performances, and they had stories regarding addiction that they could relate to, but then also about their own experiences with their parents, with their mothers, with their fathers and whatnot. So it was a really great opportunity to really get it out to a broader audience and kind of keep that conversation going.
You struck on there, Damien, that, you know, it deals with addiction. It's a very sensitive topic. Did you do much research into addiction to get in character?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of really great resources. And initially, I mean, it's not specific in the film what the drug is, but initially we were researching meth and the kind of epidemic that exists, especially in New Zealand, but then across the world, and how it's a new drug and how it's people don't really know how to deal with it effectively. So and we'd spoken to a lot of addicts and whatnot, and I guess got a real grasp on how it affects people's lives and also the lives of their families around them. So yeah, that was a big part of it.
And Leah, what was the transition like from directing a stage play to a movie for you?
Well, it's really about the pre-production with that. I mean, it's a joy working with these actors and with this team here. So, and I feel like that with every department. Like, we were so lucky with the creatives that we had involved in our film. It's a mental shift, really, but to me, essentially, it's about the story. And it's that everything goes back to the heart of it. And so, yeah, I would also say that it's different environments. You're thinking about it visually, you're thinking about the atmosphere, you're thinking about the world that you're creating. It's just a different platform. And there's certain things with that. So I did look to other filmmakers for inspiration in that regard. So I think about a filmmaker like Lynn Shelton, and some of her, especially her earlier works, they're set in, we were quite specific with the locations that we used. We shot in LA, but the story's set in Auckland, New Zealand. So we really were, I was very cognizant of that, which with a play that doesn't necessarily matter. You can anchor it kind of anywhere, and it's such an ephemeral thing. But we were really thoughtful and like very collaborative in creating that whole world when we weren't really in Auckland.
I think this next question is going to be one for Joy. Joy, I've already asked you this, but making a film is difficult. It's different from making a play. Were there any? Did you have any difficulties during production?
Every production has difficulties. It's a production, but this was a particularly easy production, from development, pre-production to production, all the way through. Everyone really showed up and gave their best, from all crew members, all cast, everything. And when things come up, when things happen, as they do in production, it's so important to take stock and work together and communicate, listen to one another, to move to the next thing, so that you can save the resources and make the best use of what you have.
Yeah.
And so I just think that this team did an excellent job of doing that, which is what made this such a beautiful and easy and like a production that I'm really grateful to be a part of.
I must confess that I did ask Joy that question the other day, and I love that answer so much that I had to ask you again. It's just so rare to hear someone say, no, it was nice to work on a film.
It was easy.
Though you mentioned there you had to make do with the resources you had, it's an independent film, finance can be difficult. If you did have an unlimited budget, is there any changes you would make to the film?
Yes, I'd pay everybody. I'd pay everybody a living wage. Our executive producer, Adrian Scott Kemp, who wasn't able to be with us today, she's working on another project. She called in so many incredible favours for us, so that allowed us to have a very high quality production level, and just working with people who are extremely experienced, who donated their time, their skills, their expertise, because they fell in love with the story. So it's always the same answer. Everyone wants more money, and maybe we would have more shoot days, like all sorts of different things, but in essence, I'm so proud of the work that we've done, and given those constraints, I'm just like really thrilled with it.
Yeah, and it's lovely to hear you all talk so positively about the story. It seems that we keep coming back to that central thing. Narelle, where did the initial idea for the story come from?
I was commissioned to write it as it was a concept for a sequence of short plays about mother-son relationships in New Zealand. It's called Mother Fire Tama Son, which is Māori and English names for mother-son. And I chose this particular part because I'm interested in the relationship between adults, parents and their adult children, and also a crisis moment and a shift. And so, I mean, I know people who are these characters, you know, and I'm really familiar with the dynamics of those kind of relationships. So it was something that I got to choose the moment, but it was within that framework and that structure. And I have to say, I mean, I saw that production in New Zealand, which was wonderful, but it was so amazing seeing it in Los Angeles, you know, the production that Leah directed. It kind of lifted the play for me, and seeing the performances, it was enormously satisfying. It gave it a whole new lease of life, really.
Amazing, amazing. Obviously, it screened last night. How do you feel about the screening?
Oh, I'm thrilled.
Yeah?
This festival has been amazing. It's been so good. Everyone has just been so nice, but so supportive, and it really is about the filmmaking. I think from a curation point of view, it's so lovely to be in the mix with all these other amazing films. So yeah, it's awesome.
And if you had any advice for, you know, aspiring filmmakers out there, what do you think it would be? In fact, you can all do this one, because people want to be actors, people want to be writers.
Exactly.
Everyone can give some advice.
Well, I think my main advice is don't wait for permission.
Yeah?
Get a camera, get a bunch of friends, and do it. Like, it's the only way through. Especially for female filmmakers, do not wait for permission.
Gosh. I mean, all I can say is it's about meeting people and meeting the right people. You know, I met Vivian because she came in to read my play, and through Vivian I met Leah, and then, you know, it went from there. So it was really about those sort of connections and possibilities, and I just feel so fortunate that these people came into my life and made this happen. So.
Yes, I would have to echo that, and this was the first lot of filmmakers I think spoke about this. Find yourself a good team. You know, surround yourself with people that artistic, creative people that you really want to work with. Build up your community. We came out really of our work that we'd done with the Australian Theatre Company in Los Angeles. So that was our family network, and because we had those lovely connections, and so in other words, you know, find good people, good talented creative people, and make your own content. Just go for it, start.
Yes, all that, and also I think, I mean, work from passion obviously, but then also, especially living in LA, I feel like there's a tendency to kind of feel like your career, your passion is in the hands of others, whether it's casting, whether it's agents, whether it's directors, whether it's financiers, whatever it is, but that the real reward really is in the doing of it and in the process itself, which is totally within your grasp. You can get out, you can stage your play, you can get friends together, you can shoot scenes, you can all of that stuff you can do yourself. So that, I think, is, for me, is something that's really come up this year especially.
I would say to educate yourself. Get educated about the process, what it takes, how long it takes, what you're actually going to be doing. That's number one. Number two is to prepare. You know, like we talked about, production is production. Things are going to go wrong, period. It does not matter what kind of production, whether it's a live production, staged, film, whatever. It doesn't matter. Things are going to not work out the way that you thought they would. So the more prepared you are, the easier it is to turn on a dime to figure out what it is that you need to fix and to work together and salvage whatever it is that you want to create.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you guys so much. No worries.
Thank you.
And thank you to our lovely audience for bearing with me today.